Most people look at the world and see what they're supposed to see. You don't. And for a long time, that probably felt more like a problem than a gift. In this video, we're going to explore why certain people are wired to perceive the world differently and what psychology actually says about that difference. We'll cover 4 specific traits that researchers have linked to heightened perceptual sensitivity. By the time we reach point 3, you'll understand why the very thing that's made you feel out of place may actually be a measurable cognitive advantage. And there's one finding, saved for the end, that completely reframes how you should think about your own mind. This isn't self-help mythology. A 2021 study from the University of Edinburgh found that individuals high in what researchers call sensory processing sensitivity, roughly 20% of the population, show measurably greater activation in brain regions linked to awareness, empathy, and depth of processing. 20%. That's 1 in 5 people. If you're watching this, there's a reasonable chance you're one of them. Point 1. The watcher trait. It's a Saturday afternoon in a coffee shop in Leeds. 2 friends are catching up. One is talking, the other is listening, but also noticing the slight tension in their friend's jaw, the way they glanced at the door twice, the micro-pause before answering a simple question. Later, walking home, they think, something's wrong with her. She didn't say it, but I felt it. Their friend texts that evening, sorry I was weird today, I didn't want to bring it up. This is called heightened interpersonal attunement, and it's not a social anxiety quirk. It's a documented cognitive pattern in which certain brains process social cues far more deeply than average. A 2019 study from King's College London found that highly sensitive individuals show stronger neural responses to subtle emotional stimuli, faces, tones of voice, and body language than their less sensitive peers. In practical terms, you read rooms, you notice shifts, you pick up on what isn't said. In a workplace, a difficult client call, a tense team meeting, that isn't a liability. It's a quiet form of intelligence. But here's what's worth noting. This same trait that makes you perceptive can make ordinary environments feel overwhelming. And that brings us to why. Think about the last time you walked into a room and immediately felt the atmosphere before anyone said a word. That reaction wasn't anxious overthinking. There's a specific reason for it, and we'll get to it in point 2. Point 2. The depth processing engine. It's Sunday evening, a university library in Bristol, 20 minutes before closing. Everyone else is packing up, glancing at their phones, mentally already at home. One student is still at the desk, not because they're slow, but because they cannot leave a question half answered. They noticed a contradiction in the reading 2 hours ago, went down a rabbit hole, and are now sitting with 3 browser tabs open and a genuinely new understanding of something they thought they already knew. Psychologists call this deep cognitive processing, a tendency to think through information thoroughly before forming conclusions. It is the cognitive engine behind why some people notice patterns, inconsistencies, and connections that others walk straight past. Researcher Elaine Aron, whose work underpins much of modern sensitivity science, identified this as a central feature of the highly sensitive brain. It doesn't just receive information, it interrogates it. This makes you slower to judge, but more accurate when you do. It makes you exhausting to argue with and extremely useful to have in the room when something genuinely matters. The cost is real, though. Deep processing requires more mental energy. That's why, after a busy social day, you can feel hollowed out in a way that others simply don't. If you're still here, here's the part most people miss. This isn't introversion. You might be extroverted, sociable, even loud. What I'm about to say in point 3 completely reframes the energy question. Point 3. The overstimulation paradox. Bank holiday Monday, a family gathering in a semi-detached in Birmingham. The telly's on, 3 separate conversations are happening simultaneously. A child is crying in the kitchen. Someone's perfume is too strong. The lighting is slightly too bright. Everyone else seems fine. You are not fine. You love these people. That's not the issue. The issue is that your nervous system is processing every single one of those inputs at once, and it cannot filter the way most brains do. This is called low sensory threshold, a lower neurological tolerance for stimulation before the brain signals overload. It is not weakness. It is not social anxiety. It is a documented neurological difference. A 2022 paper published in Brain Sciences found that highly sensitive individuals show increased reactivity in the insula, the brain region responsible for interoception, or the sense of what's happening inside the body. Translated, your brain is more connected to itself. You feel more, you register more, and your environment genuinely does affect you more than it affects most people around you. This is why the noisiest rooms feel unlivable, why too many commitments leave you depleted in a way that confuses the people you know. But here's the reframe, and this is the quiet revelation I mentioned at the start. What I'm about to share in point 4 explains why this same sensitivity is the mechanism behind some of the most remarkable perceptual abilities humans possess. This is what the Edinburgh research really found. Point 4. The perceptual edge. A junior doctor 2 years into her foundation training at an NHS trust in Newcastle. Her consultant reviews the same X-ray she's been staring at and sees nothing unusual. She hesitates, looks again. There's something, a shadow, barely there at the edge of the image. She flags it. It turns out to be significant. She doesn't know how she saw it. She never does. What she's demonstrating is fine sensory discrimination, the ability to detect subtle differences in stimuli that most people's brains filter out as irrelevant noise. This is the perceptual edge that the University of Edinburgh's 2021 research specifically measured. Highly sensitive individuals showed markedly superior performance in tasks involving the detection of subtle visual and auditory changes. Their brains don't just notice more, they process that information more completely. This has real implications in creative fields, in medicine, in law, in leadership, in relationships. The person who notices the flaw in the design before it ships. The teacher who spots a student struggling before they say a word. The manager who reads a meeting and knows the proposal has already failed even though the vote hasn't happened. That's not luck. That's a nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. Here's a number worth sitting with. In Aaron's original research, highly sensitive individuals made up roughly 70% of people who had sought therapy, not because they were mentally unwell, but because the world wasn't built with their nervous system in mind. That figure, to put it mildly, is quite significant. At the start of this video, I said that for a long time, seeing what others don't probably felt more like a problem than a gift. Here's the payoff I owe you. The reason it feels like a problem isn't that your perception is flawed. It's that most environments, most offices, most social scripts, most cultural expectations were designed by and for the 60%. Your perceptual wiring isn't the anomaly. The assumption that everyone processes the world the same way, that's the anomaly. Seeing what others don't isn't a sensitivity problem. It's a feature of a nervous system calibrated for depth. And now that you know what it's called, you can stop trying to fix it. If this changed how you think about your own perception, the next video, Do You Never Want to Leave Your House? Here's Why, takes this further. It's the one most people message me about, and after what we've just covered, it's going to make a lot of sense. One question before you go, and I genuinely want to know, which of these 4 traits do you recognize most in yourself? The watcher, the deep processor, the overstimulated one, or the one who spots what nobody else clocked? Drop the number below. It takes 3 seconds, and the answers are always fascinating.